I have a friend of mine, and I've known him for about 8 years now. And he knows exactly what I've been doing. He's been watching through the whole time. And one day he picks up the phone and he says, "Hey, my wife and I, we have 500,000. Can you put it to work?" Like that's just the way it works. It's like you just keep building that credibility, and then eventually it's just like it starts clicking that people see that, hey, this guy doesn't just say what he does; he actually really does it.
All right, hello everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Jack Bosch Show, where we talk about all things real estate, finance, and wealth creation. Our guest today is Josue Velney. He is a developer. So we're going to talk about, since we talk a bit about land, but about all kind of things. Today we talk about what you do with the land when you actually build upwards, build vertical. So Josue, how are you doing today?
Good, good. Thank you for having me.
Wonderful. I'm glad you're here with us. So let's jump right into it. What kind of projects do you develop?
My company usually develops ground up projects. Anywhere I've been associated with 230 unit projects to anywhere from 20 unit projects, started off with 2 unit projects. The one that I have a meeting for with the community is an affordable housing project. So it's going to be 100% affordable with 80% and 100% medium income AMI in Boston, which will be a 36 unit project. So that's city owned land that we're proposing to build on.
Okay. So that is, and what project size is that one? Like in terms
That's
of
a
volume?
36 unit.
36 unit and total price that the city or that's involved in that total like volume and dollars?
So we would usually buy the land somewhere around 300 to 400,000 for 36 units. Because if it was like open market, it would be a lot more into the millions. But because it's owned by the city, it's a little bit cheaper. And then we're also building affordable housing. And to build something like that, you're talking about anywhere between 13 to 20 million, depending on finishes and stuff of that nature.
Okay. So in that case, you're working with the city. The city owns the property afterwards, or is the city giving you basically the land cheaper and some incentives for you to build it and you to own it? Or what's the strategy there? How does it all work?
So for this particular project, it will become affordable home ownership. So the person that's buying it will have some kind of price cap or how much they can make income wise to qualify to be able to purchase the property. So it's an opportunity for, say, I was a former fire lieutenant, so teachers, fire lieutenants, nurses, people of that nature, working at Starbucks, etc. People of that nature being able to live in the community that they grew up in, because as you know, the city of Boston is probably one of the most expensive cities in the whole
Yeah.
United States.
Yeah, absolutely. Makes sense. Okay, so your company does that, and so tell me, how did you get into that? I mean, you don't just wake up one morning and say like, you know what, I'm going to start building 36 units from ground up for 13 to 20 million. There's got to be some progression that came in that allowed you to tackle those kind of projects.
Oh yeah, I mean, I started my company. I started in real estate in 2010, and I started off as a first time home buyer, learning how to structure deals. My first deal was a two family. I bought it for 450,000, but on that deal, I was able to get first time home buyers assistance from the city of Somerville, where I bought the property. I was able to use a first time home buyer, so I could put down 16%. At the time, this was like right after '08, so this was like 2009. So the sitting president, Barack Obama, was currently giving veterans an opportunity to get tax write-off for 8,000. So through that deal, I was able to purchase it with 2,000. Down payment is 2,750, and today that property is worth 1.1.
Oh wow! All right, so you do still own the property?
Correct. I still own it. It rents for more than my down payment.
Oh wow! Holy cow! Wow, yeah, that's up there, the Northeast. Like I live in Arizona, rents are not cheap here, but nothing like up there. So very nice, very nice. So then after that, that was a positive experience. So what happened after that?
I wasn't able to continue to buy in Boston. Boston area is very, very expensive. So I started going off to Western Mass, and I started buying 2, 3 units. And then I ended up learning how to use seller financing. And then I got into bigger projects. And then I ended up buying my biggest brick building, which was 16 units. And through that process, I became a licensed agent working with the property management. I wanted to learn their systems, their processes. And from there, I got the courage to start doing rehabs. And I wasn't a licensed contractor, so I hired a contractor. Had to take him to court. Still owes me 30 grand. I don't think I'm going to get that money back at this point. But through that, I decided I could do his job, and I got my degree in construction management. I'm a licensed contractor, and it only makes sense that instead of competing with houses on the market, it made sense to just go build a house, and I can get the dirt cheaper. I can put the sweat equity into it, and that's how I wanted to build my firm.
Yeah. That makes sense. So you had actually went to college to study that, and what are some of the most different things that construction or developing from ground up? How is it what is the most different things about it than for example taking a rehab? Rehab is construction too, right? It's just
Correct.
obviously not ground up, but where are the biggest difference makers? What is the funnest thing to do? What's the least fun part of that? And to walk us through some of that.
Yeah, I think the biggest difference is that anytime you get closer to land, there's less competition. Less people are gonna take that risk of having just dirt when you can just go buy an existing house, right? So if you're buying an existing house and there's more people that can compete, then you really don't have an advantage except for putting more money. But as far as the difference between a rehab and a ground up project, a rehab, you don't know what's behind these walls. You got to take it all apart. It's just very messy and very risky, in my opinion, because you don't know what's behind it. Where in a ground up project, I already know because I have no walls. There's nothing there. So I think it's easier to calculate with less change orders if you're building ground up than if you were going to do a rehab. And I'm not opposed to both, either one, but I really just like ground up construction because I think there's less competition when you go that route and you can be more creative.
Yeah, that makes sense. I was yesterday, we own some multifamily too. And I was literally yesterday in New Orleans, where we have a 94 unit property that we're currently finishing up the rehab. We're almost done. We're just fighting with the city and local electric company over a couple of things. And I was sitting there with a general contractor, with my global general contractor. We hired the nationwide company to help us with that, and they hired the local guy. And there, after everything was discussed, they talked about exactly that the guy that does the guy we hired to oversee the entire thing. He's also developing like $20 million hotels and $100 million low income housing and other kind of things. And he's like, I so prefer building ground up than rehab for the exact same reason that you just mentioned. That he's like, yeah, there's you don't know what's behind those walls, and here you just know the risk is obviously construction materials, but you have that in the rehab too, just not to the same extent. But it's a much to him it was a much simpler kind of thing, which surprised me because I have not enjoyed dealing with the city on all the little permit stuff just on a rehab of a multifamily property. How is that part when you deal with a ground up construction?
I mean, well, that's where the creativity really comes in. In Boston, it usually takes roughly about 2 years to get something through the zoning process. But like I have one deal right now that I'm buying the land from the seller, and I have a contingency. So I'm not paying the seller until the project is approved, and I
Okay.
based it on the number of units that I can get. And that's the name of the game, right? It's you're always working backwards. What's your ARV? And then work backwards. How much is it going to cost me to build it? And then I get to how much I can pay for the land.
Okay, so let's dive into that. So that's a good example. So now that we know what you do and how you do it and so on, and so let's talk about it. What kind of land is that, and what's the outcome, and how did you structure the deal, and what was that conversation with the seller like?
Well, the conversation with the seller is that hey, he wanted more. He believed that we can get 5 units. I believe that by we should get three. And yes, we could possibly get five, but that's not guaranteed. So I basically said, hey, if I get five, I'll pay you X. If I get four, I'll pay you X. If I get three, I'll pay you X. But the main reason why I wanted to structure it that way was not because of how much I was paying, but it's because I had no carry costs.
Correct, because the owner still owns it. So you have a contract. You put an earnest money deposit down.
Correct. Yes.
Is that refundable if it falls all apart?
I put down $1,000, so I'm not too worried.
Okay, that's true. I was in my mind, I was thinking much larger numbers here, but yeah. So $1,000 down. Worst case, you lose $1,000. Then the seller, you paid the seller market price because you don't need to pay him less because the value is really in what you in the entitlements and what you do with it, right?
Correct. Correct. I mean,
And
you're always competing with other developers, but like I said, the closer you get to the dirt, the more you have negotiating because not everybody can build, right? It's easier, for me, the strength of my company is really having that construction background. When you think about a development project, 70% of your cost is construction. If you can control that, you can control a lot of what happens to that project.
yeah, no, absolutely. So in that case, can you give me some actual numbers? How much did you agree? What were the three price points for that deal?
For that one, it was simple. It was 550 for that, and it for 5 units, 450 for 4 units, and 350 for 3 units.
And then what did you get?
Oh, we're still in the zoning
Oh, you're
process.
still in the
So
zoning
yeah,
process?
yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
So you're in the process, you don't know what's going to get out of it, but basically every extra house or extra unit that you can get out of that is worth to you an extra $100,000, basically, because what are the selling prices of these individual properties afterwards?
Well, I'm undecided right now if I'll keep it as a rental. As you know, the
Okay.
construction cost is moving, or as a condo. But as condos all of them are 2 bedrooms. In Boston right now, you're talking about around 750 to 850 per
All right, yeah, and
per.
then and
Yeah.
as my students know, if how to develop you value the land in particularly infill situations by as a percentage of the actual house or in this case a condo that you do. In this case, the land should really be worth about 25% or so of the once it's fully entitled and fully thing and all the utilities and everything in the ground, it's like worth 25% of the sale value. So that lot after it's all approved and done and the utilities are in each of these units just the land is probably worth at that point more than 550 already at that point the
Oh,
land is probably worth some more something like let me see if I get five of them it's probably worth like 1.3 1.5
probably around like 800 to
yeah
600, anywhere
two.
between anything between 650 and 800. But I could sell it or I could build it. I have different options.
All right, so I'm a little off there, okay, but that's because I'm not yet into development. We do land splitting, land selling, land seller financing, land creative finance without land, but we haven't done a whole lot of development work ourselves. Now we have coaches in our company that do that, but anyway, so good. So you basically worst case scenario, you get three approved, you pay the guy 350, but the land is still worth a little bit more than that. You could just sell the land at that point of time and make like 100 grand or so, 150. And best case scenario, you could take it and sell it for let's say 800 and make a nice 250 or $200,000. And but even better best case scenario is you just simply build on it and sell them for $750,000 a piece, which makes total sense. Or you keep it for long term. Long term.
Correct. And I think the
Yeah.
beauty of it as a developer is when you have a finished product, you shouldn't have capex right away. So
Right.
because it's brand new. But I just to give us some more examples of some of the things that we're doing in my company and in Boston. It's not only there's a lot of great developers in this area. We bought a two-family. We bought that one for 600,000, and then it was full gut rehab that we were going to do. But then we went back to the city and we said we wanted to build 9 units, and then we got approved 7 units. So we bought it. So give you an example of those numbers. We bought it at 600,000, and it cost us about 100,000 to go through the zoning process and everything like that. And by the time we got approved the 7 units, it was worth 1.2 million. So
Nice.
at that point, we just went back to the bank and refinanced, and we had zero money into the project because we created the value.
Yeah, that's how it goes. That's beautiful. And then did you end up building on it, or did you end up just selling it?
We're about a couple of months away from finishing that project.
Okay, cool. Do you ever sell the land after you entitle it, or do you always follow through and go vertical on it?
I prefer to keep it, but it depends. The last deal that I just did, we just closed on it about 2 months ago, and that was actually in Springfield, Massachusetts. So I went. So it was as you know, I met Daniil Kleeman, that's also been on your podcast through Carrot, which is
Yeah,
Trevor Mock,
yeah. Both
and
are
then
good friends of mine. Yeah.
yeah, so talking to those guys, I decided to have a land page with Carrot, and that's how most of my land leads come from. And so a lady reached out to us and said, "Hey, I've been having, I live far away. I don't want to deal with this land. I just want to get a fair price." And I said, "Well, what do you think is a fair price?" I go, "Okay, I think that's fair. We'll pay for closing costs." And then we had one neighbor that decided to put a fence on her property. So that was the big. So when we did the site survey, that's what we found out. And we were talking to her, and she's like, "Well, you know what? I'll sell it for half of that." So that's why we took it down. And that one I probably won't keep. We bought it for 7,000, and we'll end up selling it for somewhere around 35, 40,000.
Okay. Yeah. Well, those are more traditional our land deals. So very cool. So let's go back in time one more time, and let's actually talk about a lot of my audience is people that are doing land deals or that want to get into land, and they're all over real estate too. But obviously, we talk about land quite a bit. And so now you went to get the degree and everything, but did you have the money to do the first deal, or where does the money come from to do a deal? $1,000 earnest money deposit. It's no brainer. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about a deal like that. Like the bank. Do the banks just say like, sure, I give you the money, even though you've never built something from ground up, or do you, for the first time around, do you have to go partner with somebody, or how do you actually get your foot in the door as an actually ground up builder developer? And get the trust of the lenders and those people that actually fund the deal?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. I think the easiest way to do it is through partnerships. I think that I believe in mentorship. I believe not looking or asking for a mentor. I believe if you work hard and other people see you working hard, they're willing to help you, right? If you're driving down the street and your car breaks down and you're in the car, nobody's going to help you. But if you start try to push that car, somebody's going to come and try to get your car off the road. And that's really how it is. It was an investor that him and I did a few deals that were already like wholesale deals that were just regular houses or houses that needed rehab. And he had a project and he says, "Hey, would you be willing to help me go through the zoning process? I'm moving to Florida anyway. You can run the show." And that's how I did it. So I was running the show. I was the face. I was going to the meetings. But after every meeting, I would go back and tell him what happened. We'll talk about it. And then I just got the courage. I was improving and getting the education, but also making money out of it. So then I could fund my own deals now.
Yeah, no, makes sense. And I that's exactly what we did with the multifamily side. So we got into multifamily. We already had 15 years worth of real estate experience, but not necessarily very deep banking contacts. And more than anything, if you do the larger multifamily, and that it's not larger, we're playing in the mid to lower tier, mid game here, for like 90 units, 100 units. But if you play in that game and you want a non-recourse Fannie Mae or Freddie Mac loan, then number one, you have to have the net worth equal to the project size. But number two, you have to have a loan with Freddie or Fannie already for them to give you a loan with Freddie or Fannie. So it's like a vicious cycle. So how do you get in there? And the answer is the same thing, through partners. So the very first deal we did, we partnered with another guy in the industry that already was in that deal. We helped raise the majority of the money for it. We became general partners. We got a little bit less than he did, but we were on the loan with him. And as a result, next time when I ventured out on my own, I was like, yeah, I got a loan with you guys already. And now the second loan was like, oh, okay, well then it's easy. Then you get a loan with us. And so the first deal, partnering is always a good answer. I fully agree with that. So how many deals did you have to partner on from ground up before you were able to basically have the reputation, the grounding, the credit in a way? Not I mean, don't mean like FICO credit score, but more like the reputation and the industry acceptance in the local market to be able to go to a bank and say like, yeah, and they were like, sure, no problem, we'll fund you.
I think right away, like you're talking about like building that relationship. I built the relationship as a first-time home buyer. And then I built the relationship, I built that credibility of someone that can purchase 16 units and manage it and profit from it. And then made that into buying multiples and meeting other people, getting on podcasts and just like really like the best marketing I've ever done is for as far as land is I showed my project when there was a hole in the ground and then and every week it would like, oh, there's a first floor, then a second floor, then a third floor, there's a roof. And people seeing that process, they felt like they're part of the journey. And then somebody will say, hey, so and so is selling land. I think you should take a look at it. Right. But it's always building. What's fascinating is I have a friend of mine and I've known him for about 8 years now. And he knows exactly what I've been doing. He's been watching through the whole time. And one day he picks up the phone and he says, hey, my wife and I, we have 500,000. Can you put it to work? Like it's just that's just the way it works. It's like you just keep building that credibility, and then eventually it's just like it starts clicking that people see that hey, this guy doesn't just say what he does; he actually really does it, and it's just proof of concept. And a lot of people have a full-time job, so they say I have a full-time job. My job pays me well. It doesn't make sense to be a developer, but it makes sense to invest into your deals.
Yeah. So when you have average people invest in your deals, how do that structure typically look like?
It depends. So usually I don't have people into my deals, but obviously when I want to go to bigger projects and stuff of that nature, I think it's starting to happen more and more now on a project that's like the 36 unit project that's city owned land. Then you won't be raising capital. Your capital stack is very, very, very different on that end.
Yeah. Sure, because you only pay $400,000 for the land, and then the construction loan typically covers the rest of it. But if you have somebody come in, like are they like are they a limited partner and get the piece of the upside? Do you just pay them? You get them in as debt, subordinated? Do you get them in as equity with a pref, or well, not there's no pref because it's a construction project. But how do you typically, if you put outside money in, how do you private money, not bank money? How do you particularly put them into a capital stack?
It's all based on the deal. Okay, who because what I would like to do is I make a list of your possible lenders. And then you see, okay, who fits this? What makes sense, right? You might have somebody that says, hey, I just want 12% on my money annually. You might have someone like that or someone that wants upside, right? So when you're talking about raising capital, a lot of it is connected to the risk that you're taking. Right. So let's say like we're buying land and the project's not approved yet. It's not guaranteed I'm getting 5 units. That person is going to get more of a return than somebody that comes in after that, right?
Yeah.
And you can structure it both ways. You can structure it that they're making a lot more on the entitlement process, and then once it's entitled, they get less on the construction side.
Very nice. Yeah. No, I just wanted you to kind of tell our audience a little bit what some of the structures are, what kind of the things are there. That's very, very good. So
I mean,
how's life? Go ahead. You want to
no,
say
I was
something?
gonna say, I mean, you can get really, really complicated to having waterfalls and hurdles, right? Of having, okay, when we get to this point, we're giving you 8%, and at this point, we're giving you 12%, or this point, we're getting 16%, and you got the GPs are getting 40% or 60%, and it moves around. It's very different on every deal. It's very, very different on the banking, right? When you first start off in buying land, sometimes you got to use hard money. Eventually, once you get that credibility and you get that experience, you want to use bank money because it's cheaper.
Yeah, makes total sense, and it is cheaper, even though it likes more control. But that's that's the downside of it sometimes. Uh, Good. So what's coming up for you right now? What are you working on right now, other than the numbers, the deals that you mentioned right now?
Yeah, one thing that I'm working on is because I have the credibility now, especially the online presence, is that first I was super focused in the Boston area. And then last year I made the shift of focusing across the state. That's how I got the deal in Springfield on my website. But now I want to really go after the whole East Coast. So I have landing pages for New York, New Jersey, Georgia, Florida, that whole area. And the way that I'm figuring it out is if I get a lead, I'm asking agents or other people that I might know in that area. As you know, like this is a real estate's really a small community. If you go to enough meetups and you make those relationships, you can phone a friend. Right. Hey, you live in Georgia. What do you think about this? Or can we partner on this? And I think now, as I get older, is that I'm more open to partnerships because of that very reason, because you can lean on your partner's strengths.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So what typical lots, like we have an audience here, so tell us what are you typically looking for?
Well, I'm looking for all in. I'm just looking for as many leads that I can get, and then see, okay, who can I? Because it's not a lot of work if the website's already doing the work. The website brings the lead in, and then all I'm doing after that is try to find out who can execute on the back end or find a buyer on the back end, right? So just connecting with my network that's already there because that's a lead that they don't already have. So as long
Right, but
as
you're looking particularly for development land. There's 80 acres 2 hours away from the next city. That's not necessarily what you're looking for.
No, my network's big enough that if I have 80 acres, I can find somebody that might be able to possibly take that down, possibly want to just sell it as on MLS. We take it down. Like there's so many different options. That's why I said like I went from Boston to the state and now kind of to the East
Okay,
Coast.
so you're expanding from land development to really, in a way, also typically what we're doing, which is totally cool, like land wholesaling in a way, because if you can find a cool deal anywhere, then great. Then, well, that makes total sense. So, yeah. So, that, by the way, just to let you know, you don't have to, for that, you don't have to restrict yourself to the East Coast. You can do that nationwide anyway, like many of our students are doing and many of our customers are doing that. They take deals wherever they get them, and then just go resell them if the price is right. It all makes sense. I thought initially that you're looking to develop all over the East Coast, and that would probably call for a slightly different kind of property, doesn't it?
Correct. No, you're absolutely correct. So I won't build outside of Massachusetts right now.
Okay.
But if it's a land deal, then I'm just gonna sell it off.
Okay, sounds good. So cool. So guys, everyone, if you find land deals that you want to sell off, particularly perhaps a little bit more valuable ones, you potentially got either a JV here or a buyer for your land, depending on where it's located. And if it's in Massachusetts and if it's in the Boston area or somewhere close to that, then make sure that you definitely reach out because there could be a buyer for a development deal right there with you. How do people get a hold of you? What is your website?
Josue Velney, Velney Development. They can, if you Google my name, something will come up. My name is not like Tom or something like that. So Josue. So as long as you put that in Velney, Velney, then it'll come up.
All right, Josie Velney. That's like go look it up and josievelney.com, I guess, right? And look him up and find some. Is there any other way people can get a hold of you? Want to share any kind of other resource or things like that you have?
Yeah, they can find me on LinkedIn, on Instagram, on Facebook. I'm on all platforms. I think in today's day and age, you kind of have to be. I mean, you can't be a secret agent, right?
Right, absolutely, yeah.
You got to make it easy for people to find you. But I will say, one thing that I think is underutilized is SEO in the websites and understanding your strengths and what you can do because what I found is because I already was known as a real estate developer, and the real estate developer in some ways is connected to land. So as soon as I made a landing page, within 2 weeks, I was ranked very, very high.
Yeah, absolutely. Makes sense. So that's a great idea. If anyone wants to get into land development, to link that to your existing website and help you index higher. Last subject. Now that people know where to get a hold of you, last subject. What do you think about the marketplace? Where do you think we are going? I mean, nobody has a crystal ball, but as a developer, obviously, even in a high interest environment, you continue to develop, you continue to build, you continue to break ground. You must be very bullish about the overall prospects of multifamily or of condos or of whatever the different products that you produce. Is that right? Or what is your take on the market in the next couple of years, let's say?
No, I think you're absolutely correct. I think the biggest challenge is that you have to educate your sellers that they can't get what they got last year or the year before, right? Or what their neighbor got, right? That's really the biggest challenge in understanding that you can't pay more because the numbers just don't work. You have, even as a developer, we have Bosch, we have investors that we borrow money from, right? We have to give them a return. And I think that's really the driver, but this is what we do. We can find certain ways, like I said, if we bought a two family and then we got approved 7 units, we created a lot of value there. So there is these other opportunities to do that. So that's what I'm always looking at. Like I can't go buy a gas station or open parking lot and not imagine what if we put a building there, right? It's not like, oh, how do I rehab this building? It's more about, okay, here's this gas station and this is the footprint of the gas station. Can we put 40 units? Can we put 50 units? Can we put 60 units on there, or a parking lot, right? Maybe we don't need that parking lot in that area and it's zoned correct for ground up. You're gonna A price of a parking lot is not the same price as when it gets approved for 50 units. And that's, for me, that's really the magic. That's what we can control, is creating the value on that end. And that's why I love land.
Mhm. Yeah, that makes sense. So the message here is think creatively. Don't just buy a piece of land at market value and then build what it's already designed for it, because it's going to be priced for that already. But if you can make it be used for more while locking in the price for what it was intended for initially, then you can create tremendous amounts of value.
Yeah, and
Like,
you can
like
also sell part of your lot, right? You can buy a lot and have 4 projects on there, sell off 3 and keep 1. You're
yeah,
gonna you're
no,
gonna have
absolutely.
enough liquid to do whatever you want at that point. You might not even need a bank loan if you
Yeah,
if you if you raise enough money.
that's right. All right, wonderful. Well, thank you very much for being here with us. I think, do you have any kind of last words about that you want to share with us?
No, I think it's been great being on the show, and I look forward to seeing what happens with all your audience about building land. I want somebody to email me and said, "Hey, I saw your podcast, and I want to become a developer, and now I'm building X. I'm building this. I'm building 10 units, or I was just buying land, but now I realize I can build something even bigger."
Yeah, and for those who do that, by the way, also remember we started earlier this year a mastermind of the top land investors in the country called the Ultimate Boardroom, and where we talk about land development, where we joint venture on deals, where we bring in people that are experts about all aspects of land, including like large rural air land, timberland, development land, triple net, you name it, all the different kind of things. So if anyone watching this and you already are an experienced real estate investor, then make sure you go to book a call with our team at landcoaching.com and talk to them about it. It's not a coaching program. It's a mastermind for the top land investors in the country. So with that said, thank you very much, Jose. That was wonderful to have you here. That concludes our episode. As always, give us that 5-star review if you're listening to this on iTunes. If you're watching it or listening to it in any other platform, give us a thumbs up, subscribe, and make sure that you spread the word so we can reach more people with our information. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.